Here. Hey everybody, thanks for joining us today. We'll give it a few more minutes as folks are trickling in. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us here today for as we dig into a webinar really focusing on unlocking sales success with offline sales engagement. Really happy to be here with you all today and with two great folks that both are customers of ours, but also just power users of the offline and overall engagement strategy. My name is John Barcelos. I am the head of solutions here at Postal. A lot of my responsibilities lay on with our AEs as well as with our implementation of Postal, specifically looking at how we implement that as well as how we implement strategy. Joining me is Jake Miller and Maggie Valentine. Jake.
Yeah, hi, and thanks for having me. Really excited for the conversation ahead of us. Jake Miller, I'm a director here at FireMon. I'm over our global ABX program. And in a nutshell, FireMon is a 20-year-old cybersecurity company that really handles network security policy management, cloud security operations, and asset management solutions for the cyber industry. And me specifically, I work very closely with not only our marketing team, but also all of our sales teams, new business, all the way through retention, as well as a lot of different internal teams in regarding kind of the offline gifting strategy that we'll get into as well. Over to Maggie.
Thanks. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. I'm Maggie Valentine. I am a senior product marketing manager here at Outreach. I mainly focus on our partner ecosystem, so managing all of our 100 plus integration partners, which one of them happens to be Postal. So really excited to be a part of this webinar and to talk a little bit about our partnership and our customers.
Thanks, Maggie. As we get into a little bit of our agenda today, just something that you can all prepare yourselves for, and we're really going to talk about some structure, philosophy, and theories of offline and engagement. Then we'll get into some best practices and creative approaches that we have seen be used across the tools. Then we'll really dive into the case study that Jake had mentioned. As we start to think about this from that structure standpoint, I think that the one thing that's really unique is that Postal and Outreach are having those impacts across funnel. It's really the most unique thing about the offline is that it can be used as a process. And as ABM continues to be something that is evolving into this ABX and into having all of these other possible touches, being flexible and meeting the needs of customers is exactly that sweet spot where Postal really has found a niche. In fact, that's actually exactly what Jake used Outreach and Postal for together. Jake, do you mind giving us just a little quick insight to maybe the team org and structure that you have and the tech stack that your sales team actually uses today?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so my job is very unique with FireMon, especially because we have a marketing team that sits beside me that rolls up to a VP, but I actually roll up to our RevOps leader, who is actually over our RevOps team, but also our BDR team and also an internal sales team as well. So that's really where my connection with sales kind of launches off, being reporting into that kind of revenue structure. But our marketing team, it's really broken into the product side, the operation and automation side, kind of the email, the webinar, and the events and everything. And then also a channel side to our marketing team, because in our industry, we work very heavily with channel partners with our end customers. And in regards to kind of the tech stack that we have, very sound tech stack we have at FireMon, the Salesforce of the world, Marketo, obviously Outreach is a big part of ours, Postal as well, and kind of the contact, we use ZoomInfo. That's really the structure of our main tech stack. And just to touch on this, we use Postal and Outreach from the opportunity creation of using Postal within Outreach for our BDRs, the kind of the more automatic side of it, all the way down to the close one and onboarding, working with our customer success team, kind of setting up little touch points through Outreach sequences and also incorporating Postal with those as well.
That's great. Yeah, thanks for that, Jake. I think that's a really good segue into when we think about really just some overall best practices here as well. And on the next slide, we'll really start to kind of focus in here. And when we think about how the tool can be used, I think, Maggie, I'd love to get some insight from you on this too, specifically with templates and how we can have saved content within the systems. On the Postal side, we have saved messages as well as automation that can kind of put this send in place. So to Jake's point, when you're working across all of these departments, we can really start to see a scale of a process and deliver those best results. Specifically, Maggie, I'd love to hear how your team leverages templates, maybe even snippets for that matter.
Yeah, happy to answer that. So if you're not familiar with Outreach, we are a sales execution platform. And Jake, I love that you talked about how your team uses Outreach across all personas, because historically Outreach has really been known for kind of that SDR, XDR persona, outbound prospecting. And that's really where templates and snippets have kind of were initially part of the initial platform that we had. But now, of course, as we've evolved into more of a, not just a sales engagement solution, but full sales execution platform, not only are XDRs using it, but so are AEs and CSMs and revenue leaders. So just love that little plug in the beginning. But when it comes to templates, and if you think about Outreach, you're not really super familiar with maybe what a sales execution platform does, maybe you're on the marketing side of the house. It's really just think about it as a way for salespeople and entire revenue teams to see opportunities from creation all the way through to closed. And so as marketers, which I am one, and we obviously are power users of Outreach ourselves, it's really hard to trust your sales team to go to market with the right messaging and to understand what messaging is resonating. And that's why templates are really great, because as a marketer, we can go into Outreach, create the templates with the messaging that we know resonates based on AI and analytics, and have that saved easily for our reps so that when they go in to either create an email or a LinkedIn message or any type of touch or send a postal gift, they have the right messaging that just automatically is loaded in. It pulls in the right, whether it's first name, greetings, things like that, automatically right into that email, which just makes life a little bit easier and gives marketers a little bit more sleep at night, knowing that the right messaging is being sent out.
Yeah, I love that, Maggie. And I love this idea of making it easier for the seller as well, right? I think that is the biggest takeaway for me as a seller in my former life as well, is that when we can put this in the hands of the seller where they are for the use case that they need, everything else starts to fall into place, kind of creating this collaborative effort, which is kind of right in line with seasonal events or even collections. We think about the Halloween holiday for everybody who's here in the United States. Huge, very festive, obviously as one season. But then we'll head into the holidays, which will have their own feel. As we head into the new year, there's kind of these seasonal approaches to the seasonality of them by the very nature, right? Jake, I'd love to kind of get your perspective on how you approach your account-based efforts, specifically with that seasonality approach. And just before we jump into it, I think it's important to think about collections as they're referred to in the postal platform. Just so everybody's clear on this, this is really the power of choice. A collection allows you to put multiple items into an offer or an incentive or a gifting effort, however you want to vocalize that. But it allows you to actually allow your recipient, rather, to choose one of the items that has been set up with that. The power of choice is really big, but again, not to overwhelm them with choice. Maybe this is 3 to 5 items. Nearly 20% of all postal gifts that are sent today are actually sent through this, because we're keeping that personalization of the message and giving that power of choice back to that recipient in a non-gimmicky sort of way. So, Jake, let's talk about that seasonality that you were mentioning.
Yeah, great. This is one of the more fun parts of my role, working closely with the BDRs, because the seasonality campaigns that we've been putting together, like John mentioned, he mentioned Halloween, it's right around the corner. I have actually a sequence built for all of my BDR team to use with a postal collection magic links offered. And this is where the kind of the difference with the seasonality. My BDR team always has the availability to follow up pre-meeting or try to set a meeting or after a meeting with one-off postal gifts. But a lot of times we're working prospects and we're trying to call them for days, months, weeks, sometimes. So it's something where I put these together, where if they go through other areas, we don't want to offer gifts to anyone and everyone. We have a narrow select ABX set of accounts that we want to go after. And after we try to set that meeting, we really kind of build these sequences around the seasonality that John mentioned. Like currently we have a Halloween one going, we have 6 different offers. And as opposed to just offering one scary Halloween brownie set, we give them offers of a couple gift cards, a couple seasonality ones that links to the Halloween offer, as well as just some nice gifts in that kind of price range that we set beforehand. But on top of that, throughout the year, my BDRs actually reach out to me when the Women's World Cup was happening. They want a postal offer around this. So I did the same thing, set up a sequence for everyone, customizable by the BDR if they would like to, as well as set up a collection offer that's kind of sports, soccer, or football oriented. And also just to touch on a couple other ones, like earlier in the year, like March Madness is big and Super Bowl are big. So this is something you don't want to overwhelm them with these type of offers, but once a quarter, once every couple months, it's a great way to kind of, especially for our BDR team, recharge them, because they're working these prospects for months at a time, sometimes with no callbacks, no email answers. So it's something kind of fun. And we kind of put it in the light of, hey, just around this event or around this holiday season, just a little fun FireMon wanted to offer you. So it's not, we're obviously trying to set that appointment with them, but it's more lighthearted, more kind of just like, hey, we just want to have a little fun around the holidays and offer you one of these items kind of thing.
I love that, Jake. Thanks for sharing that. And it kind of spawned a question as you were describing it of, could you walk us through in maybe like 3 steps how these come together? I appreciate that for the Women's World Cup, the team wanted to do something. Can you walk us quickly through how that was like orchestrated and how you assigned the budget for that and kind of executed that?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so it was really nice because I was head down busy otherwise. So the BDR team, actually one person on the team reached out for it. So just had a quick meeting, really understood what they wanted to do and why they wanted to do it. Obviously, everyone knows about the World Cup and the importance of it. So then I worked with a couple BDRs that brought it up. I selected 6 items. I had them narrow it down to 4 that they wanted to use. And really from there, I worked with my product marketing team and my BDR leader in creating a sequence. How long did we want to do it? How much after the World Cup ended do we want to offer it? And we kind of narrowed down what we wanted to spend on it. And from there, I backed in kind of the ABX accounts that could be and should be qualified for it. So basically, it was something all they need to do is get it into the outreach sequence. The first one is manual, so they do have to do a little work on the outreach sequence on the first one. But then I set it up automatically sent the next 4 to 8 emails, depending on how long we want to do that. So very minimal lift on because they're working their hot accounts in outreach and so forth in the phone calls. And this is kind of more for catching all and making sure we do our due diligence on our best accounts.
I love that. I love that. Thanks for sharing. As we talk about ways of just better engagement in the offline, on the next slide, I think this is something that we're starting to see kind of, throughout this journey. It's starting to become a theme again of meeting the action where in the system with the user where it needs to be taking place, right? The best way to drive adoption is to really take the actions where they work. That's really what we can see throughout these platforms. Keeping it streamlined, focused, really delivering that best result. And Outreach and Postal do this incredibly well with triggered actions. As we get into those triggered actions, that's exactly what Jake is referring to here, as a step within that outreach sequence that we say, oh, this is active, automatically send this item. But not only is that the important part on the front end, but getting that information in maybe it's an email digest that is sent to the user at the end of the day or at the end of a week. Maybe that's an instant Slack notification, or maybe that's even a timeline view in the activity, which you're seeing on the far right hand of the screen here. I give all three of those options because really that is Postal for sales, right? As we think about how sales teams engage with the platform. On the next slide, that's actually what we've done recently. We've launched an entire effort here so we know when the action's happening, whether it's kind of marketing driven or even sales driven, when those actions happen, having the clarity throughout systems and throughout teams of, yes, this is now the direction that we're going. I love that. As we go to the next slide too, Maggie, I'd love to discuss how you and your team are using Postal within your processes today, specifically where time can be saved that Jake's alluded to a little bit here with this integration.
Yeah, absolutely. And we kind of talked about this last week on our prep call. And if you've probably interacted with me at all in the last 12 months, I've given you this stat in some way, shape, or form. And it's from the Harvard Business Review. And they call it the toggle tax. But I think it's just such an impactful understanding of where salespeople are spending their time and how much time is being wasted. That would really probably give a lot of us a little bit of heartache. And that's the average salesperson toggles between tabs. So if any of us look at our Chrome or whatever we have open right now, there's a ton of tabs most likely open, but the average salesperson toggles 1,200 times a day, which then adds up to 4 hours a week spent just toggling between applications. Or if you do that on an annual basis, 5 weeks a year wasted just switching between applications. And so if you're a revenue leader and I tell you in Q4, hey, I'll give you 5 more weeks to go and hit your number, you're going to take that time every single chance I give you that. And so if what we're doing by simplifying systems, by integrating them to one another, we're giving you that time back. We're allowing you to be more efficient as a seller. And we're also just allowing you to never forget that follow-up, right? And that's really the beautiful thing about Outreach and Postal is the triggers that are available. And so when you have this seamless integration, we've talked about how it can be put into templates, which are then put into the sequence. And if you don't know what a sequence is, it's just different steps in a sales, any types of points of contact throughout a sales process, whether that's an email, a phone call, all of that is done automatically. So when Jake's sales team goes and push start on that sequence, they do maybe first manual customization, personalization. From there, once that sequence is pushed to go, you don't have to make sure that your BDRs come back in and remember to follow up on that gift that was open. A trigger is automatically done, sent to that BDR that says, hey, your gift has been opened and you probably required them to have a meeting booked with you first. So you've got a meeting coming up, you need to prep for that call or whatever it might be. And so it really just protects not only your rep's time, but it also protects the integrity of your business as well by making sure that they're following up appropriately, that the right action is being taken next. And then also it allows you to have that it removes the guesswork of what's really working, right? When you look at the AI and the analytics that are provided through both platforms, it's okay, well, this seasonal campaign worked really well, but this one fell flat. Was it the messaging? Was it the gifts that we chose? And how can we either replicate what was really great and make sure we do that across the entire team, or we don't do this one again, but we do more of the other. And so that's the kind of data that not only does Outreach provide, but Postal gives you as well to make not only just a sales team smarter, but the marketing team smarter as well. And honestly, in today's world, it helps to protect that budget, right? You're making sure that the money that you are allocating to gifting and direct mail and all of those things is actually being maximized for the most revenue impact, which is really what we all want.
Yeah, I love that. And I love this idea of really looking specifically into the sequence that you mentioned. If we're going to have the triggered action there and say, oh, we're getting the response rates here, and it's maybe it is with the gift, maybe it's not, but how can we use that? Because we see when the gift does get accepted, these things are happening. And kind of that, I love the way you explain that, Maggie, because I think the marriage of those, right, is really what takes it to that next level, which is on our next slide, Jake, I think this is a good lead into the challenges.
Before you jump
Yeah.
jump back a slide, I just wanted to add to what Maggie said and kind of reinforce the usage of triggers, postal triggers within the outreach sequences. From my experience, BDRs are really good at kind of one-offs, Amazon gift card or other sports or fishermen go after that specific gift. But when you really kind of work with, and I used to be in sales 8-9 years myself, so I get it. If you give a salesperson the option of, hey, I'm going to send it to 25 or 50 plus, they take a lot more time. They put a lot more thought into it. So us as marketers being able to set it and kind of forget about it, we know what's going out. It's going to save your sales team a lot of time and effort by taking the extra, not a really small amount of work to get the trigger set up. So they take that out of the realm and they're going to waste less time, kind of to Maggie's point of toggling back and forth, even thinking about what to send. And my EMEA rep, I actually just talked to this morning. We're going to be using these triggers because another kind of use case for this is we have a couple areas where we have strategic account lists, not just a territory. So it's something where a couple of those, obviously, we want to take an ABM approach, like a one-to-one, a one-to-few. But this type, also with the BDR handling many more accounts in EMEA than our BDRs in America, it gives us the opportunity as marketers to basically set something to make sure we know the outreach is getting to those customers or prospects, basically, that we know we need to reach. And the BDR has very minimal effort because he's got thousands of other accounts around the globe to really prospect into.
Yeah, that is great insight.
Sorry to move on there.
No, I'm glad that you jumped in with that. I think that's a very good call out. And it's still actually on as we do move on here into the objective challenges that you had faced. I'd love for you to kind of talk about why that was so important to you here within the case study that we're going to be reviewing here today.
Yeah, no, for sure. This is kind of the heart of why I'm a huge postal fan and postal user. Because when I took over ABX program at FireMon, it was a big objective to make sure that we're not only going after the right accounts, but strategically going after those right accounts. So it was really kind of getting into what the objective of our gifting program was. Need for a new gifting solution, because I did have a lot of pain points with my previous gifting solution. I think we'll get that in a minute. But also being able to prove it to the executives and our board in regarding, hey, we're spending these gifts, we're sending these gifts. What is it showing for us at the end of the day? Because at the end of the day, it's all about revenue and sales. We are marketers. We love numbers. We love showing how much we open and influence. But at the end of the day, we need to show what's closing months, years down the road from our efforts now and 6 months from now.
Yeah, that is really good. And you kind of alluded to it as we go into our next slide here, that you had a challenge with your previous solution before Postal. So obviously, as we were prepping, we kind of bulleted these out, but I want to dive into them so that everybody's on the same page here. Tell us exactly what those key challenges that you were looking for into getting this solution in place.
Yeah. So when I took over the program at FireMon in our ABX ABM world, it was something, a big chunk of the ABX program was a one-to-many kind of gifting, direct mail sending strategy, let's say. And since day one, when I started, I really had a big problem, and I'm starting with kind of the integration, the second one. I really had a big problem with the previous solutions integration with our Salesforce instance and kind of tracking and reporting. I found myself really spending not only days and weeks, but literally months trying to figure out what was going on in the kind of technology in the back end. And I'm not a complete tech person. So obviously that took more time than needed. And I actually had to get internal teams to help me as well. And with everyone busy, you'd have to wait for internal help, yada, yada with that. But the integration was the biggest kind of key challenge I saw first. Secondly, it was the adoption from our not only BDR team, but our sales team and many other teams that eventually we'll get into use Postal did not use our previous gifting solution. So I was trying to at least solidify our BDR team and sales team. But the kind of integration problem really caused a lot of headaches and red flags initially when I started. And the third thing really was the interface. I do love marketing technology and vendors, and a slick looking interface does go far, in my opinion, in kind of the adaptability and usage. If a system doesn't look pretty, but it still works, I'm fine with it. But the people that, like our sales team and the ones that are not closely really related with the vendor and the system, ease of use and kind of the UI and the interface is very, very important. And again, that kind of touches on the ease of use across systems. Because our previous solution, it was really, I want to send a gift. I have to take 5 minutes to go here, a couple minutes here. And it was really a step-by-step solution to get that gift out the door. And then the last one, it was really expanding gifting program without more of me. I knew I was not going to get another Jake or another person on my team. So I really trying to find, and I went through a very long process of all the gifting solutions out there. And it was something where I need to figure out what I could add to my tech stack and remove the last one, and then really expand the usage across FireMon in general.
I love that. I love it. Thank you for sharing that. And I think that's exactly where Postal kind of came into the equation, right? That is where we came in, and to speak to those 4 bullet points, you know, directly, which all have an impact on doing the change that you had just mentioned without, you know, the extra hands on deck to essentially facilitate that. Can you tell us a little bit about why you chose Postal to serve your global ABX needs, essentially, that we're talking about here today? We'll probably start with go ahead.
Yep. No, it's something that kind of the first jumped out from our previous solution, looking at actually all the other solutions in the market. It was really the kind of the interface that caught our attention. The ease of use and kind of the layout of the gifting solutions, the offers, the products, and also the back end. When we were looking into this, we actually looked into the back end, the kind of if you're an admin, what does it look like? How do you update everything and get into the different teams? So kind of that was one thing that jumped out. I was actually able to categorize teams for tracking and reporting purposes a lot better in this system than the previous one. The second one was ease of use. Like I kind of touched on it with the user interface, but it was really that jumped out with Magic Links. The Magic Link product, and just a touch on that, if you're not a Postal user, it's something where gifting is something, usually I send something to Jake Miller, he clicks on a link, he accepts the gift card. And then that offer's good. You got to create another offer for John or Maggie. Magic Links gives the availability to create an Amazon gift card generalized for $25 and have one URL created for your sales team to use. That's kind of how we integrate very well with or use the integration with Outlook, because I could just create one URL and put that URL into an outreach sequence, and then multiple people can accept that. I set the limits as a marketer, 5 can accept or 105 can accept. And then the link goes dead kind of thing. But that was one of the biggest things for a one-to-many and an ABM marketer of one that really set Postal apart in that. And then the efficiency of the integrations. So I did test the integration with Salesforce and made sure everything was there. And this was one thing that jumped out, because when I evaluate vendors, I always have my RevOps team on the calls at the end with me. And it was something they saw the back end, they saw the toggles for integration with Outreach, with Salesforce, and it was a lot easier than the previous solution, bar none by far. So it was something at the end of the day, once we signed Postal, I actually integrated a couple other systems because the RevOps team felt comfortable with the Postal system and how it is integrated, that I wasn't going to break anything, basically. We wouldn't have to do extra work. But that in a nutshell, I think hits it on the head of why we ended up going with Postal.
Great. I love to hear that. You know, as we think about how Outreach came into this as well during these multi-channel campaigns, can you give us a little bit about how you're using the two in a direct way here?
Yeah. So, and this is I did a case study with Postal that's out there and going a little bit more depth in these. But driving new business is something that I and FireMon and we have empowered our BDR team to really use Postal in strategic ways. They don't need approval. They're really at the odds. And obviously at the end of the day, I track and report everything. So I'm watching that we do not abuse the system, because as a company, you could really spend a lot of wasteful money in a direct mailing system. But driving new business has really been driven with our BDR team using Postal in not only trying to set the meeting, kind of putting that hook out there, meet for this, the quid pro quo kind of thing, but also really enforcing the meeting. When they set it for next Thursday, they're sending a coffee card that Tuesday before or the day before. Hey, looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. And also working with our AEs, which kind of helped our AEs adoption of Postal of the follow-up meeting. So working with the AE to kind of get the group follow-up. Hey, we're meeting with 5 people next time. Let's send a $200 Uber Eats card for the whole team. So that's kind of the driving new business side of it. Opportunity acceleration. This is something that's really caught on this year with the kind of the Postal event side of the house. So not only does Postal have direct mailing pieces, and you can send gift cards or cookies or brownies or alcohol bottles, or create collections on multiple ones, but they also offer a Postal event section where an hour virtual event. I could set up through the postal system, do all the invites, the follow-up, and so forth, and actually run the system through the event through the postal system. That's really helped my AEs. Kind of when deals are in the early stages, the biggest thing you need is communication and acceleration to get to those late stages. A lot of times it's fallen short or you kind of lose communications. These events have been great, and also gifting, you kind of like one and the same in this. It's something to put your name back in front of them without asking for that meeting, without asking for that answer to the question you're waiting for to kind of move it along. Not only that side of it, but also trying to use Postal like, hey, this gift card I want to offer you, send it to your colleagues. And with the magic links, obviously you could do that with one link. They could send it off to their 5 teammates and get accepted. So that helps not only kind of obviously build the relationship, but also the AEs to help build that buying center, trying to get one person more involved in that conversation, or get the 3 or 4 people, because it's happened a couple of times where they don't know who they need to be talking about, because a lot of sales deals are usually one-on-one, because they want to hold it close. This gets the opportunity to, oh, it's accepted by Jake Miller over here. I didn't have that contact. Next time you talk with that person, like, hey, Jake just accepted that. Can we bring him in the meeting next week? So that's kind of really the opportunity deal acceleration that we did in the multi-threading of deals that I kind of talked about. And then lastly, team expansion. So it's something, since we've added Postal, our previous solution, I found out our BDR team used it decently. AE team really didn't use it. A couple of them kind of knew how to use it and used it here and there. But also Postal expanded. Our HR team uses this now. Our CX team uses this all the time now. Our technical account team uses it. And even our international teams are starting to use it. We had a little international usage before, but we've really expanded the power and capability of our international sends now that we've used Postal.
What do you think?
Does that hit on all?
Yeah, I think so. It's interesting that it was impactful. This is what stands out to me. It's impactful. We start to see the motion, and then we poured gasoline on the fire, for a lack of better terms, right? You started kind of expanding that throughout the teams. Can you tell us how you were able to get that adoption and the buy-in from the rest of the org for that?
Yeah, it was a nice scenario for an ABM marketer like myself, or ABX marketer like myself. We started earlier this year with kind of a test project from an executive trying to work this one region of the country. So I brought up Postal events as an option. We ran that. And then it actually helped kind of 1 or 2 deals in that market. So from there, the executive team, my management asked me to kind of start doing these, because as an ABM person, I have check-ins regularly with all my different sales teams in North America, across North America. So then I started asking if they'd want to do it. So 2, 3 people wanted to do Postal events. I did those. And then the nice thing is, this was kind of an aha moment in my career, basically, is I had 2 people, 2 RSMs that really sometimes don't show up to the check-in. Sometimes they're slacking me to set that meeting or move up that ABX check-in, because they want to get one of these Postal events on the calendar, because they are hearing the success, not only from their teammates, but from their team meetings and kind of group meetings across FireMon. So when that kind of happened, the word got out about Postal, and that's when our TAM team, our technical account management team, asked me. Our HR person came up and asked me about, hey, this Postal system, can I use this? I use this, and this. And basically like, yes, and they got rid of the other systems. So it really consolidated kind of what we're doing, our strategy, and for me, it got the sales team excited about ABX and the uniqueness that we can do with the Postal system.
I love that. I love that. And as we move into here to talking about the case study then, and some results that you saw from your initial sending, I'd be remiss not to say that this is probably good fuel for that fire we were just talking about. I'd love to hear about additional quantitative results that you're seeing from the qualitative challenges that you were seeing after leveraging this portion of the process. Obviously, we've got some numbers here up on the screen. Tell us about how this momentum has kind of built on itself, and the teams that you had just mentioned. I'll give it back to you, Jake.
Yeah. And I guess I'll start kind of taking a step back of why I'm able to show these numbers. It's because of the Postal system and the uniqueness of the back end and how reporting. So it's something I took a lot of time in the beginning of this year trying to set it up a way that not only I can use it efficiently, but my team can report on it efficiently. So it's something where I broke out all of our different teams in Postal, but then also broke out tracking in Salesforce for all of our different teams. and then also all of our different events, postal events, and so forth. So with that, I could really see what's being spent on what accounts at the end of the day. And just kind of starting from the top, I touch on the ROI, but then like the 500,000 plus in new pipeline generated from target accounts. That is really coming from our one-to-many outreach ones, the holiday ones, the March Madness, the World Cups, the Halloween offers. It's tracked back to sourced from like basically when they opened and accepted a postal. The next one was that opportunity creation conversation from our BDRs, because all of our BDRs, it's nice to offer a nice gift in the holiday season or the event season or just for the fun of it. But as we all know, it comes back to sales and the revenue at the end of the day. So we're always calling them. Once they accept it, we thank them. Once it's delivered, we want to ask how it is, kind of thing. And that's sourced not only from the seasonal campaigns and the one-to-many campaigns, but I track if a BDR basically just uses postal, anything that's accepted goes back into that tracking. So I know if a BDR sent that Amazon card and the opportunity opened, I also track that in that 500,000. I mentioned the postal events. That was a big deal acceleration play from early this year that's kind of blossomed. I think I've ran over 20, probably a decent amount more than that since the beginning of the year. So we've actually sourced from those events over 1 million in open pipe for the sales team to be working. And we have, I don't think I have this on here, but just this year we have a little over 250,000 closed one from previous years, because these are just 2023 stats. So I actually have some stats from when we just signed up with Postal last year regarding that. And then lastly, one of the biggest things that I think has helped outside of the marketing organization is the adoption from the HR teams, from the international teams, and from our kind of like customer service and technical account managers, because it's not the most impactful, because I think this is really the most impactful. But one of the key strategies to gifting is the personalization and the relationship building, because our CX team and customer success team and our technical account managers, those are the ones working with our end user. Those are the ones working with our customer, knowing if they just had a kid, knowing if they have a dog or a cat, or if they're an animal person, or hiker or swimmer. So it was really empowering getting those teams access to this, because they're the ones that are going to make the most impact on the gifting, if that makes sense at the end of the day, because we're sending a gift card to someone that loves fishing or golfing or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of kind of talking. We've discussed a lot of automation, today between the systems, but I think there's also something to be said about, creating, be that maybe a task in outreach, if it's part of a sequence all the same or a step rather, within that is, okay, consider sending a personalized gift here and giving your team those options of, every time we're on a call, I notice that there's a dog in the background. So I'm going to send some dog chew toys after our call as a thank you, be they in one of those roles that you mentioned. I think that is absolutely a key to success here, and only points towards the efficacy that all the teams that you've brought on now to the platform are seeing.
And I'll just touch on kind of what Maggie mentioned with the triggers and outreach, because our CX team and our AE team is actually starting to use outreach for kind of follow-ups and touch points before renewal and this sort. As one of the many masses in the BDR side, a lot of times marketing wants to choose that cookie offer, brownie, or gift card offer. When it comes to that team and outreach sequences, and this is something for the team and to test out yourself to see what works better. You could still do the same thing like we talked about, and you choose the item, set up the outreach sequence, set up the trigger, but also what we've been doing a little bit more manual and kind of takes a step away from the automation. But our CX team, we could do an outreach sequence and then basically just put another outreach step in there. Hey, send what you know they like. So it will take another step to go into postal and go in there, but then you could still, it's more automated and it's easier for them to use that way. But you're not using the trigger because they need to understand that person to have the personalized gift as well. So, and you could try both ways for your BDR team, for your customer success team, because you could hit a lot more people and more automized with the triggers. But also the customization is to be had as well.
Yeah, I think that's great. When we've seen, and I see this daily working with our customers, is that Chrome extension that Postal has. It's also available in Edge, but really, as we look at it, primarily used in Chrome, where it opens up on the contact or prospect, as Outreach refers to it, opens up on the contact or lead within your Salesforce system. Kind of back to that theme of keeping the user exactly where they do a lot of these actions. The screenshots that you're seeing on the screen here as well are from the Postal platform. When we look at the ROI, I see one of the questions that we got here was this actually from the managed package. This does surface in the managed package as well, so you can see this within your Salesforce instance. It's available in both places for that question. If anybody else has questions, please toss them there in the chat. We've got a few minutes here now to open it up for that. I'll hop in with one of the other questions that I saw, and Maggie, Jake, both of you feel free to answer this. Maybe some common scenarios that have not been discussed yet of deal acceleration that you would recommend creating templates for specifically.
I can hop on this one. I think for templates specifically, part of what makes that such a powerful tool is the AI and analytics that come from using a template. So if we all had, everyone at their organization has the President's Club sellers, the ones that are constantly exceeding quota. And what's really great about Outreach is, as a manager or a marketer, I could go in and really understand those top performers. What is the content that they're using? Maybe they're getting ghosted in a deal. How do they go after that deal to get it back on track, to accelerate that deal? What is the message that they use? What's the sequence that they're using? Is it sending a gift and saying, hey, wanted to grab coffee really quick to check on how this account is progressing? Or do you have concerns about what we've been discussing? And really just kind of taking that analytics of what works and rinse and repeat across the entire organization. So that would probably be my initial reaction to that question. But yeah.
No, that's a great call. And I was not to joke, but if we had the answer to how to accelerate all deals, I'd be a very wealthy person, because we're always talking about that as well. So kind of not to touch on the events again, that's one way we touch on it. But also to Maggie's point, it's really about what use case, depending on what your product is solving, and what's working. And Outreach gives you that type of analytics, seeing what is being seen, what is being looked at. Because I wish there was a silver bullet, but kind of how we look at it is, how are we getting more people involved in that conversation, and how can we talk to them quicker?
And I can say one thing that Outreach does have that's not necessarily specific to templates is our deal health score. So if you look in the Outreach platform at your opportunities, there will be a deal health score that takes analytics from across the platform, what activities have been being done, including gifting, and comes up with a score as to how healthy that deal is. And we don't give you the analysis paralysis of way too much data, but we tell you what's lacking in the deal, and then also give you the next best steps to go ahead and get that deal back on track to make it healthy again. And so that's where I think relying on the platform to tell you what's working and what's not working, and really trusting that. But also, like Jake mentioned earlier, give space for customization and personalization, because at the end of the day, people want to be sold to people and sold from people. And so having that human touch is always really important in any type of sales process.
I think that is a great point too, Maggie. And there's another question that came in that I think actually ties directly to this. Let me go back to it here real quick. Sorry, there's a few questions here. And the question was about, do you have any resources available for people who are new to ABM implementing and an overall gifting strategy? And I think is unique, and all of us here will be on the same page, is a lot like what you just said, Jake, and is a lot like what you just said too, Maggie. It's everyone's is going to be a little bit different, right? And it's about knowing where your buyer is, knowing what that process is today, and not rewriting the whole script for it. It's adding something to it. I like to think of when I describe this, and this was in the early days of Postal, I would describe it as every seller and every marketer has a tool belt. Gifting is just one of those tools that is attached to the belt, right? And so when you use it is in specific places. That's it. And when we can kind of simplify it in that aspect, we see some of the best results from it. But I'd love to, anything you two would want to add to that?
I would love to throw in kind of the implementation of a gifting strategy, because it's very unique. It's at the right time, and kind of the right gift if you know the right person, because sometimes it is used for one-to-many, and you're trying to use a gift to be that hook on the end of the fishing line. But also, just advice for mine, it's if you're starting into a gifting strategy, you want to also go after the right accounts. So as an ABM person, I got a lot of data available, a lot of other systems that I use to figure out what out of those 100 accounts or 5,000 accounts are showing the best interest, because you really want to gift someone that it's worth gifting. It could be the best account that like basically is the biggest revenue, biggest commissions kind of, but if they're not interested in your product at that time, a gift might not going to be impactful as a way less revenue company that has been searching for NSPM solutions, cybersecurity solutions around us. So a gift is more effective when not only at the right time and uniqueness, but also after the right accounts. Make sure you go up small and you understand the accounts that should be gifted, see what's working, and then start to expand. That's a quick thought there.
I think as marketers, that's where the partnership across revenue teams is so important, because sales is going to be the team that's going to be able to tell you actually what are the accounts that they're prioritizing and that they're spending their prospecting and opportunity management efforts in. And so when you're putting your ABM strategy in place, you want to make sure that you're just supporting that already existing strategy that they have and enhancing it. Like John said, by giving them an additional tool in their tool belt. And that's really all the ABM is trying to do. So the fact that you're even listening and showing up is a good first step for sure.
Yeah, I'll leave it with, we recently launched here at Postal, the Postal Flight Academy, which is really about taking you to that next level of how you use this tool specifically from your belt. And within there, we do talk a lot about structuring ABM campaigns, kind of some baseline overall best practices. But I want to thank our guests for being here today with us, for sharing even better insights directly from the source, if you will. So thank you all for coming today. We'll have the recording here out shortly. Continue to enjoy your afternoon or late morning, wherever you are.
Thanks, y'all.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care, guys.